Greetings and welcome to my channel. I am Matthew. Today I'll be speaking about accompanying on the organ. One might ask, why is it necessary to be able to accompany a congregation on the organ? Besides being a requirement for some practical examinations, such as NICAEA, one will need an organ to practice on. Most organs are found in places of worship, while in bigger cities they are found in city halls, schools, and universities. These, however, have restricted access to members, students, and professional organists only. By having access to an organ in a place of worship to practice on, one might need to render your services to the congregation. Therefore, it is required to know how to play a hymn. In this example that I'll be demonstrating, I'll be using the hymn Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, with the hymn tune known as NICAEA or NICAEA. I am not sure what is the pronunciation of it. It is also one of the hymns that might be chosen to play within a UNISA practical exam. I will be using the Anglican hymnal, Hymns Ancient and Modern, in this example. I have a number of choir hymnals available for home practice. These can be purchased at certain Christian bookstores, and they don't cost as much as the full organist manual copy. When looking at a hymn, one will see the music and a set of verses which follow. The music is known as the chorale. The chorale is repeated for each verse. Some hymnals have the verses printed within the staves of the chorale. By examining the chorale, you'll notice two clefs, the treble and the bass clef. There are two notes at a time in each clef. These notes are the harmony, which can be sung by a choir, accompanied or unaccompanied. The two notes of the treble clef are sung by what is known as the trebles. These are the higher voices of your choir, which are usually ladies or boys whose voices have not yet broken. The upper voice with the stems up are the soprano voice, and the lower notes with the stems going down are the alto voice. In the bass clef, the two notes, we have the men singing there. These are men whose voices have broken already. Stems going up are the tenors, and stems going down are the basses. These, however, are broad terms, as we do encounter female tenors and basses, as well as adult males that are able to sing the alto range. These are known as counter tenors. The soprano, alto, tenor and bass parts are usually referred to SATB. The soprano part is the melody of the hymn, unless otherwise stated. In some hymnals, especially the older hymnals, the notes are written at double their value. This was done to save on printing costs to make hymnals affordable to congregations. We thus count in minims, also known as half notes, and not in crotchets, also known as quarter notes. We accompany a hymn on the main manual of the organ. In this case, the grate. The right hand will play both notes of the treble clef. The left hand will play the tenor part. The feet on the pedals will play the bass part. Together we have the 4 notes in harmony. I would like to add that the bass part is very important. Therefore, your foot technique has to be good. They sometimes refer to the bass being the tray on which everything rests. If your bass line is unstable, the congregation will also be unstable. When playing the chorale, the soprano will repeat each note as written, while the other voices will keep the notes on for the duration of a bar or a measure, or half a bar or a measure. More repetitions may be included for more rhythmic playing. If you look at bar 3, the soprano has repeated notes, while the alto has an ascending line. The ascending line of the alto has to remain legato, while the soprano repeats the notes. This is why the exercises we do with organ technique are so important. Every good organist should be able to transpose hymns. In most hymnals, especially the older hymnals, the hymns are written too high for an average congregant to reach. Congregations do not harmonize anymore. We should also remember that everyone is not a trained singer. On average, most people are only able to reach the high C or the high D in some cases. As absurd as it will be to do voice range extension exercises with your congregation before each service, so too will it be to expect them to reach notes that they possibly cannot. Being able to transpose will also be an advantage to an organist when you have to avoid a dead note. For those of you that don't know what transposition is, that means to play something in a different key. This hymn is in E major. We could play it in D major, or even C major, which will accommodate the majority of your congregation. Being able to transpose is an art, and with each art you need to practice it. The end of phrases are shown by double bar lines within the chorale. At the end of a phrase, you should lift everything to enable breathing. Phrases should also have momentum and not become too static. We use our high notes and our low notes for the high point and the low point of a phrase. Also, emphasis on certain words. and etc. To introduce a hymn tune that is unfamiliar to your congregation, one might single out the melody on a louder manual. We play the soprano part with the right hand alone on your primary manual with louder registration. The left hand will play the alto and the tenor together on your secondary manual. Your feet remain with the bass line. We need to practice the left hand combining the alto and the tenor separately first. Next, we may add your left hand with the pedals. And then when you're confident enough with that, you add your soprano line alone with your right hand. Alternatively, you can swap your tenor with your soprano lines. You will play the soprano part an octave lower with your left hand on your primary manual, and your tenor will be played an octave higher along with your alto on the secondary manual. To make the soprano part more prominent in the tenor register, we might want to add a reed to make it sound more prominent. Of course, transposing your tenor an octave higher and including your alto will need practice by itself. You might need to also practice your soprano with your left hand and the pedals by itself as well. You may then combine only your hands to get the feel for this way of playing. Once you are confident enough and have practiced this way enough, you might combine all of your components. Of course, this way needs a lot more practice than just singling out your soprano in your right hand. For each verse, we need to change our registration. We color the words in with registration. If we keep the same registration for 4 verses, it will tend to sound boring. Examples of coloring in your words with a registration are as follows. If the verse mentions darkness, we could reduce our registration and add a 16-foot stop on the manuals. If the words speak about light and radiance, we could add a high mixture. If the words speak about triumph, we could add our reeds like a trumpet and a trombone. If the words sing about peacefulness, we could use our 8 and 4 foot flutes. Take note that this is the softest registration you can use when accompanying a congregation. If the words speak about joyfulness, we could add our principal chorus with a few reeds of the swell if we wish. If the text speaks about an earthquake, we could add our 32-foot flue from the pedals. Not many organs have a 32-foot. If you only starting out on the organ that you'll practice on will most likely not have such a stop. Some verses may even be harmonized differently if you know more about harmony. We could base the chords to the relative minor. We could use extended chords if you so wish, if the music allows for it. You may consult various hymnals where certain hymns will be harmonized differently. It is all up to you. Just remember that hymn playing is personal taste. Before the congregation can start singing, they will need an introduction. Introductions should not be too long and only short. They are usually half of the chorale, not longer than half. The importance of an introduction is to introduce the melody. Introductions that have the absence of a melody are bad. Once the congregation should start singing, you should add something. Introductions could be played on your secondary manual if you so wish, and go to your grate when the congregation should enter. Some congregations do not enjoy too elaborate introductions. Some congregations prefer only the first two phrases, nothing more, nothing less. Others enjoy the first and the last phrase. Others enjoy motives of the melody being displayed before the entrance of the congregation. Use this to your discretion, as each congregation will favor one over the other. Add something, and that is when the congregation should start singing. Depending on the hymn, the last verse sometimes wants a descant. Some hymnals include descants to their last verses. Some hymnals have a different harmony for their last verses, with an organ part playing different notes, while it is indicated in the score that everyone will sing in unison. If there is no descant available, you could write your own. Also, one might use notes from the tenor or the alto, whichever is more interesting. In this case, I'll be using the tenor part, and then close to the end switch over to the alto part. As I said, these are personal tastes. You may write your own descant, or consult other hymnals with a descant if you so wish. To play the descant, what I usually do is to play symphonically, especially for the last verse. By doing so, The descant will be on top. I'll be playing 3-note chords in each hand and doubling them up. The example, you have to use your descant and analyze your chords and know what chords are underneath. Remember that the congregation will be singing the melody, so the melody needs to be present within your manuals. Of course, certain hymns like prayers or softer hymns do not want a descant to be played like that at the end. Certain hymns like Silent Night with its descant, it needs to remain softly. You may then improvise the descant with your left hand with a 4-foot reed from the swell with its box closed. Softer hymns might even need a reduction in harmony, such as 3 voices only instead of the usual 4 for certain verses. Always make sure that you have your chords complete. Now, as the example, I'll be playing all 4 verses with changes of registration. I will not be singling out the melody. In certain hymn books we have other Descants. In Liedboek van die Kerk we have it in D major, and there is a Descant written by a fellow South African organist, Albert Troskie, written in 2001. We could use this Descant. This hymn is written in D major. I will just be playing the Descant. Of course, certain hymns are not well suited for the organ, especially the more modern songs or hymns, but that is a topic for another video. I would like to thank you for watching. I made this video for my students when learning to play the organ. The language medium of tuition of my organ students is not English, but I kept this video in English to accommodate international viewers. Thank you for watching.